Happy Friday, everyone. This is Biker Mike and Devin, and you're listening to the Blue Collar Philosophers podcast. No, just fucking kidding. Don't change it. It's me. It's Tales of a Messed Up Northern Boy. But seriously, you guys really need to get over there and check those guys out. It's pretty good. They're not what I am, because you're not going to find anything else out there for a podcast that is what I am. But go check out my bros over at the Blue Collar Philosophers podcast. So I'm sitting in my garage here tonight with two of my kids and one that, well, pretty much one of my kids. He's been around long enough, but he's bigger than me. And I asked the kids, I said, is there any stories you've heard about Dad and his crazier years that you want to hear? And my oldest boy actually said, New Year's Eve 2000, Dad. So I will try and keep that one straight, because I was 17 and bouncing between 3 or 4 different parties that night. It was New Year's Eve 2000. Come on. We were having a hell of a time. Yeah, the 90s were gone. We were coming into adulthood. Well, I was anyway. I was the last one to turn 18, and I was going to do it in 2000. Did it 3 months after this story, so... All right, guys, well, if you want to say hello, go ahead. Hello. So the year was 1999. And, well, I'm sure you younger generation, you've heard Party Like It's 1999. That night, we partied like it was 1999, because it was going to be the last time we ever could. So we had a party going on at my buddy's place, well, one of my buddy's places on 108th Ave, back at home. And we had a house. Oh, one of the kids is scratching my dog here, so he's just going crazy. But we had a party going on 108th. We had a party going on 109th. We had one going on 112th for sure, and I think there may have been another one in between there somewhere. But the big one was 112th. And a bunch of us started at the one on 108th, and we started early. And we figured we were going to bounce back and forth between a few of these parties and then try and hit the fireworks. But I don't think we ever did see the fireworks that night. So there was me and Brent and 2 of the Justins for sure that started on 108th. And our plan was to hit the party on 112th. Well, a friend of mine, we'll call him Rudolph Nixon. He was living on, it was 108th, which was the original stomping grounds for us boys. Then 109th was the big barn-shaped house. Then it was 111th was where Rudolph Nixon was, and 112th. So a bunch of us started at 108th Ave at the big party house. I kind of gave you guys a walkthrough on the way that house was set up, and it was pretty tame when we left there. But of course, there was a party going on there. Any party house in town that night was insane. So we just sat there, visited, got primed up, and we figured we'd go and hit a couple of the other parties. And we hit the barn house. And the barn house was not completed. It was an old farmhouse. It was an old barn that somebody had converted into a house and moved into town. And it got beat up over the years, probably because of all the kids that lived there and the shitheads they brought over, like us, destroying the house. And I remember at times we would get wasted in that house and put our heads through walls and punch the stairs going down and throw each other down the stairs. Actually, your ex, that was her dad's house.
Crazy one?
Yeah. The one that accused you of that shit? Yeah, that was her dad's house. Oh. But we stopped in there, and there wasn't too much going on there. Oh, and another friend of mine, King, he was out with us that night. And I think Thane was with us that night. Wasn't supposed to say that name. Oh, fuck him. If you don't like it, he can suck a dick. So we had the two Justins. We had King. We had Brent. We had the guy that I shouldn't have said his name, but I just did. We had my bully. We had Brad. Oh, I'm not all sure who it was, but there was a lot of us. So when we left the barn house party, we went over to the party that was on 111th Ave, and that was the Dope Smoker House. That was Rudolph Nixon and Kyle and, crazy amount of guys lived in that one. So those of us that smoked dope, we stuck around there for a little bit, and everybody else kind of moved on to the party at 112th Ave. I don't really remember too much of what happened at a lot of these places, especially after I had a few hoots with all the drinks I'd already had. But I do remember I was going through a nasty breakup with this girl at the time. My first love. Actually ended up marrying one of my best friends, which is, people would think it's weird, but it's really not. She's great. He's great. They work better together than me and her ever would have. Love them both. Still go and have coffee with her. Still go out and have drinks with him. But I was a little messed up from that night. And we got to the party on 112th Ave, and it was about 11:30. And the girl that lived at that house, I think I can say her name and it won't bother because there was a few of them that we knew over the years growing up too. It was Shauna. And we'd walk in the house there, or walk up the driveway, and they were in the middle of converting their garage into like a big... What are you two trying to say?
Me, how long I had my lanyard for his vape.
Oh. But anyways, so you're walking up the driveway, and the garage, they were in the middle of converting it to a second living room. So you go up onto the deck, you walk in the house, and the living room was off to the left. And then there was a stairway going downstairs that you saw the back of straight ahead of you. And the kitchen was over on that side. And then the stairs went down. And from the stairs that went into the basement, you could, just off to the left of those, you could go down into what was going to be the living room. There was bedrooms and a bathroom off the other way. And we were all having a good time. And I think... that girl that I had just went through the breakup with at that time, I think she was with King at the time. And he said something to set me off or something, and me and my kid's uncle, they fucking love this guy to death. You will hear from him. I still cannot say his name because the cocksucker hasn't okayed it yet. You guys know who I'm talking about. He's supposed to be coming to see us the end of this month.
Yeah.
But
it kind of sent me into a downward spiral. So I was downstairs talking to Shauna, I think, and kind of told her that I was in a bad headspace and maybe thinking about offing myself or something. And then she got up and left. And I just sat there and had my drink and had my smoke. And then this friend of mine come into the fucking room. And he pretty much knocked the fucking door off the hinges when he come in. And he grabbed me by the throat and slammed me up against the wall. And he was choking my fucking windpipe off with his fingers. And he says, "You son of a bitch, if I ever hear you're going to kill yourself again, or anything along those lines, I'll fucking kill you myself. That way your mother and your brother and everybody has somebody they can fucking blame and not blame themselves for it. Are you good?" And I started crying like a bitch. And I said, "Yeah, I'm good. And then he looks at me and goes, "Well, we got our fucking prank to pull, asshole. That was our plan the whole night." And we were down to about 5 or 10 minutes before the strike of midnight. Well, the big thing then was there was this huge worry of Y2K and how are the computers going to work when it goes from 1999 to 2000. You know, all of us now know that it's like going from 1989 to 1990. It just, the numbers click and you're good. But the world was worried. So we were all hiding downstairs at the main fuse box and could hear the countdown upstairs. And everybody, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And me and this buddy threw the main breaker to the house. And holy fuck, the people started freaking out upstairs. Absolutely incredible. Probably the highlight of 1999 leaving and the year 2000 coming in. That, and I found out one of my best friends would kill me if I was going to kill myself so that my family would blame him and not me. And my oldest is just sitting here laughing when I say that. Well, so boys, you just heard that one again. Probably a little bit different. Because I tried to add a little bit more, but it was a really hazy fucking night. Is there any other things you've heard me and Uncle Robin talk about, or me and the uncle that we can't say his name?
You and Uncle Robin's brother coming in.
The what?
You and Uncle Robin were shooting, and Uncle Robin coming in.
Yeah, Robin, we rode at the farm, and I think Robin had the 45 and I had the 9mm, and we're shooting at this fucking muskrat in the dugout right by the house, fed by a natural spring. And we're firing off, and neither one of us can hit this cocksucker. And we're probably only standing maybe 3 feet apart. And both of us just round after round after round after round. Well, all of a sudden, his big fat brother, Fifi the douche, comes fucking running up with the 12 gauge. I think it was the 12 gauge. It was either the 12 gauge or the 410. And he lets one fucking rip right between us. Didn't give us any heads up. He was fucking coming. Just run up right between the two of us and pulled that fucking trigger. He missed the fucking muskrat too. Scared the shit out of me and Robin. We both probably came 4 feet up off the ground. Fucking prick. What do I got for amount of time here now that we've been recording? Oh, we're only 14 minutes here. There's got to be another one. Or something that you guys remember.
What about the unnamed uncle and the homeless man?
Yeah, I could tell that one. You're talking the one where the homeless person asked about that?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. Well, my kid's unnamed uncle. I'm not even sure what year this was. It's been a long time. But this one's crazy. He was out partying. And this is a secondhand story. I wasn't there for this one. But apparently, allegedly, he was going to meet up with somebody to pick up a little bit of blocaines. And when he was standing in front of the convenience store waiting, this homeless guy come up and started talking to him. And whatever. He wasn't anything about it. And then, after he picked up his blocaines, the homeless gentleman made a conversation, or made a crack about sucking his dick, or something along those lines. And apparently my kid's unnamed uncle, in his fucking state, snapped and beat this motherfucker within an inch of his life. And if I remember correctly, he jumped into a cab, and the cab driver wanted to call 911 or something for the hobo, didn't he? Yeah, but the kid's unnamed uncle would not allow that to happen. Because he actually thought he physically killed Hobo Joe, we'll call him. I don't know what his fucking name was, but that's my go-to with hobos, is Hobo Joe. But I'll tell another one about my kid's unnamed uncle, and I don't know if they heard this one. I bet you they have. So me and their unnamed uncle, we were heading back to my place, I think. It's when I was living with Justin, where in the apartment where I stole the Mustang, and y'all heard that story on the podcast here already. But I think that's where I was living, or we were going over there to party, or to one of the other many, many apartments we used to party in that apartment building complex. And the kid's unnamed uncle slipped on some ice and biffed her fucking hard carrying a 2-4 beer. And the beer was all over the place. And there was these guys in an apartment right where it happened. And this is like probably 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, we should have been to our destination and enjoying the party there at this point, not wandering around, and definitely not talking to the guy that stuck his head out and asked if we were okay. And the unnamed uncle was cursing and swearing, and then they asked if we wanted to come in and clean up so that he could clean himself up a little bit. So, well, sure as shit. Friendly people in the place we always hung out. Why not? So we go in, and he cleaned up a little bit, and I almost said his name. He cleaned himself up a little bit, and then we were sitting at the table, and we're drinking and bullshitting with these guys. And they were asking me how good of friends we were. And I looked at the one guy, because my buddy was passed out cold, I thought, on their kitchen table. He's like, "You guys pretty close friends, or can we mess with them?" I was like, "No, we are tight. Like, tight. That is one of my best friends in the world." That guy could sit up from the state he's in right now, reach across the table, and fucking drive me right in the face, and I wouldn't do a goddamn thing about it. I think that son of a bitch woke up because he heard me say that. Because he woke up, stood up, and reached across the table and fucking laid me out, broke my nose, knocked me out of my fucking chair. I damn near put a hole through the wall in their kitchen. And sits back down, puts his head down, and he's snoring again. These fucking guys, I pick myself up off the floor, and these guys look at me and they're like, "You two fucks gotta go. You gotta go. I'm like, what? They're like, you guys are fucking crazy. You gots to go. I'm like, Archie. I'm like, yeah, you gotta go. We gotta go. And so I try waking him up. And I can't get him to move. I start slapping him, and I can't get him to move. And then he kind of comes to, and I'm like, we gotta go. These guys don't want us in their house anymore. They think we're crazy. Blah, 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 whatever. So we get up, grab our beers. They look at me, and they're like, are you sure you're good to go with him? I'm like, that's my bro. We're good. Broken nose. Leaking blood again. You guys are starting to... If you've been listening to a lot of my episodes, you should start to know. This happened to me a lot. I spent a lot of nights leaking. But that was shot number 1 of his free ones. He did get shot number 2 of his free one. Or of his free ones. But the next one, if it happens again, it ain't going to be a free one. And I'm coming back swinging. So I really hope he doesn't ever try that again, because I don't like hitting my friends. But the look on those guys' faces when I picked myself up off the floor, I was like, see what I mean? I kind of understand why they punted us out.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Think we're good for this episode, guys?
Yeah.
All right. And on that note, I will end it off. So, remember, don't walk a mile in my shoes, because that shit won't impress me. Spend 30 seconds in my head, and you'll understand why I am a messed up northern boy.